Hello, Mountaineer Nation. I'm the Wolfman, Dale Wolfley, and I'm here to want to bring you my Wolfman breakdown. This is something new we're trying out, and really what it is, it's just going to be 6 to 8 minutes of me talking about the Mountaineers opposing team that are going to play, in this case, tomorrow, Saturday. So let's get at it. Let's break down this Oklahoma State Cowboys team, the Pokes. Yeah, when you say pop the Pokes, pound the Pokes, it's a tough place to play, although there's only gonna be about 20% of the fans at the stadium, but it still is tough. And when you look at this team and break it down offensively, defensively, and special teams, you're gonna see that the Mountaineers have a game, man. They're gonna have to ball tomorrow if they want to come out victorious, and I think they can. And we're gonna get into that here in a second. But let's just look at the overall fact of where the Mountaineers have come from in this time of uncertainty, for sure, is that they trained hard. They've been disciplined because they're keeping that, knock on wood, they're keeping that COVID-19 down. And so far, all has been good under the leadership of head coach Neil Brown, the administration, the coaches, and the players. And I like that because the players are taking charge for their own actions. But let's get into Oklahoma State. And first of all, I'm going to start off with the offense. Now, last week, the offense only generated 277 total yards. That would be 138 passing and 139 rushing. So they didn't blow off the doors. Factors into that, and you'll see why. But let's first give credit to Tulsa. As I broke down the film, I really saw that Tulsa was excellent at playing. They played hard, so give kudos to them. But let's go back and look at what this offense has, because they have a lot of big-time playmakers. But it doesn't help when your leading quarterback, the 2019 Big 12 Rookie of the Year, gets hurt on the first series in the ball game with a high ankle sprain. Now, we don't know if he's going to return. That's Spencer Sanders, by the way. We don't know if he's going to return tomorrow, but he might. You got to prepare for him. So, head coach Neil Brown and the Mountaineers are preparing for him. But they also have to look at Ethan Bullock, who came in. He's a junior college kid that transferred, and he came in and gave him 4 sacks. He was 8 for 13 for minimal yards. Really did not do anything to move the Pokes around. And then they had to go in to the third and fourth quarter with Shane Illingsworth, a true freshman who's 6'5", 220 pounds. Now, if you look at Spencer Sanders and you look at Shane Illingworth, there are 2 different type of ball players. Spencer Sanders is a dual threat quarterback, and he's pretty darn good. Shane Illingsworth is going to be that guy you've seen drop back, throw the ball up, great arm. You've seen it before with Oklahoma State in their previous quarterbacks, and he's that atypical, protege of those previous quarterbacks. So regardless of who the quarterbacks are, you have to look at the offense here, the personnel and the strategy. And where I see this really a big key of this game is the Oklahoma State Cowboys. They want to run the ball. Now, they got a huge Jamokin offensive line, mostly all 6'6", 315 to 325 pounds. Remember Josh Sills? Yeah, the former Mountaineer. Well, he is now a redshirt junior out there at Oklahoma State, and we know how big he is at 6'6", 325, and he was a pretty good player for the Mountaineers while he was here. So we wish him good luck, except for tomorrow. And tomorrow we just want him to not have the best of days, but we still love you, Big Josh. But let's look again at this offensive line, because what they really want to do is they want to run the outside zone. They want to run the inside zone, the split zone, where everybody goes one way in the offensive line, and the H-back comes across. We saw that last week on the first, or 2 weeks ago, in the first week with carry with Letty Brown, where he took it for 38 yards. That was a split zone. The whole offensive line went right and blocked right, and Knipper came across and kicked out the defensive end. There's a big old hole right there for Letty Brown to run. 38 yards, man. So that's, they like the split zone. And then they also like to do a little bit of gap blocking, which is they want to do a counter with pulling the backside guard and backside tackle. When I say gap, that means the front side is coming down, coming down, coming down. It's gap. Block your gap with the man in your gap, and let the other guys roll around for the secondary, their second level, I should say, in the backers. So when you look at this and you see this big, big offensive line, they are strong, they are big, but they're big. And what does that mean? Well, they don't move so quickly. So where does that leave the Mountaineers in this defensive line? Well, I look at the Stills brothers, right? You got Darius and you got Dante. And what are they? They are penetrators. They are explosion. And When you look back here at Oklahoma State last week against Tulsa, what happened? Well, they gave up 6 sacks. Well, actually, 1 sack was the Chuba Hubbard, the running back. But for the other sacks, 5 of them were to the offensive line. And because they're big, they're just, they may be a little bit too big. And that's where I think the advantage comes, where the Mountaineer defensive line, they like to attack at different angles. And when you can go at an angle, now if you want to hit me in the center, I probably have a good chance of blocking you, right? Because I'm big. And I'm 6'6", and I'm 320 pounds. But if I hit here, pressure points here and here, guess what that does? It turns the body. I'm not so big anymore because this is not as strong as this is in the core, right? So that's what the defensive line is going to have to do, and bring speed and bring havoc, man. Total havoc. The defensive line has got to play great. The Stills brothers got to play great, but the whole defensive line's got to play great. And I think they will, because I think they're pretty fired up. But again, now let's go look at some of the playmakers for this offense. We have Chuba Hubbard. Now, last week he only had 93 yards of net rushing, and I think it's more not Chuba not being where he usually is. It's again going back to the offensive line and not being where they're usually at. So I think that there's going to take a little bit of mixture getting them on the same page as well. But they really have a nice 1-2 punch, and then that punch again is Chuba, who is going to be All-American. He could get the Heisman if he just goes on and carries on and the rest of the season and just kills it like he did the last couple of years, because he can still take it to the house. Now, L.D. Brown averaged about almost 70 yards per carry against Tulsa last week, and he just ran really hard. And talking to Oklahoma State's play-by-play guy, John Holt, he said that L.D. Brown has never played that hard. He's never blocked that hard. And so you can see that this guy is really trying to get his reps in and getting his time, and even though Chuba is there with him. So obviously they got Chuba, they got L.D. Brown, 1-2 punch running backs. The Mountaineer defense is really going to have to play physical against the run. Now, let's go back to, we talked about those 3 quarterbacks. So let's talk about the receivers now for the Oklahoma State Cowboys. And when you talk receivers, you got to talk first about Tynan Wallace. He had over 2,600 reception yards in receiving. He 20 touchdowns in his career. He was the 2018 one of the Blitnikoff finalists. He is just really special. He was hurt last year when we played him, so we did not have to go against him. Now, when you go ahead and you look at that, you got Tynan Wallace, and then you got Dylan Stoner. Remember number 17 last year? Well, he became the leading receiver for the Cowboys after Tynan got hurt. Or I'm sorry, Tylan got hurt. And when you look at that, he really stepped up, and he's a really good returner on special teams. So you're going to have to watch out for him there as well. And then, of course, you got Braden Johnson, number 8, number 1, Landon Wolf. Landon Wolf had 25 receptions. He came on very strong. So they have a receiving core that can really, really be effective. And then you add in their tight end, which they like 11 personnel is their favorite, which is 1 running back, 1 tight end, 3 receivers, right? They'll also go 12 with 1 running back, 2 tight ends, and 2 receivers. And of course, then at 3rd and long, they'll hit that 10 personnel, which is 1 running back, 4 wide receivers. But the 1 tight end I want to talk about is Jalani Woods, who is 6'7", 250 pounds, and he's a biggin. He's a redshirt junior, and he just likes to get in there and maul. I like this cat, and he can catch, because last year in 2019, he had over 20 receptions. So he can block and he can catch, and that tight end down the middle going to be very painful if you don't cover the tight end. So when you look at this here with the running attack of Chuba Hubbard, L.D. Brown, you look at that offensive line, and I know that they want to run. They ran the ball 50 times against Tulsa. They averaged 2.8 yards per carry, which again, they lost 59 when you put in all those sacks. So that certainly took away from that. But they also gave up some TFLs, man, which is not the usual Oklahoma State offensive line that they give up. They usually are better than that. So it's going to be a defensive line coming up there. It's going to be the linebackers going hard. It's going to be the secondary playing hard, because we got the receivers up here. You want to protect against the run, but then you got these explosive receivers. I mean, Tyler Wallace could take it to the house at any time. So the game was always going to be in constant. You got to be ready. Got to be ready to go. You got to be fired up, man. Just as fired up as I am right now talking about this. So this is really good stuff. But now let's flip it over to the defense. And when I look at this defense, okay, they gave up 112 rushing yards against Tulsa last week and 166 passing. So that's only 278 yards. They went where they made Tulsa go 0 for 12 in third down conversions. Say what? So on third down, Tulsa never got one first down on a third down. So, and of course, Tulsa lost 16-7 to the Pokes. Now let's take a look at this defensive front. What are they trying to do on the defensive front? Well, what they try to do is they try to confuse you. They want to confuse the offensive line. They want to confuse Jared Deggy, the quarterback, and the running backs, whether it be Letty Brown, Alex Sinkfield, Tony Mathis. It doesn't matter. They want to confuse you. They want to bring in 6 in the box primarily when you have 11 or 20 personnel. Anything that has 6 to 7 offensive players in the box, they're going to bring in 6. It could be the 3-3 look. Not always stacked. They have what you call a 3-2 mug, whereas there's 3 defensive linemen. There's 2 linebackers, who, by the way, the 2 linebackers are all preseason Big 12. And then you have this guy named Trace Ford, number 94. He's a redshirt sophomore, about 6'4", 260 pounds, and he's a mug linebacker. He moves all in and out of the offensive line's front there. He's mugs them, gets hugged up there like you're mugging him, you know what I mean? Mug, get up close. And he moves back and forth, and it makes it hard for the offensive line to know where he's going to be to block him. Now, when they go to a 4-2 look, so that's 4 defensive line, you're going to see Trace Ford be the outside rusher, kind of like West Virginia's bandit type personnel. So he's out there. He's a disruptor. And you, number 94, Trace Ford, and then you go to the 2 linebackers, and you have Malcolm Rodriguez, number 20, had 10 tackles, 9 solos against Tulsa last week. And then you have number 7, the linebacker. He's supposed to be first team All Big 12. You know, he was really good last year. It's Abu Ikan. It's X-Men. You know, that's his last name. I can't pronounce it, so I'm not even going to try. But so, again, the defensive front, what are they trying to do? They are trying to confuse the offensive line and the quarterback and understanding what they're going to do. Are they going to come this way? They're going to blitz? Well, you just don't know until the snap. And that's why the Mountaineers, in my mind, in the rushing game, they're going to have to keep it simple, man. Keep it simple. Blocking assignment simple. And if you can do that and execute, then you can rush against these guys. And the other thing, too, is sometimes because they move so much, play so many games moving around with the mug, with anything, just standing and, angling, all the games that they play, though they can also give up the big play, because not everybody's in the proper position all the time when you're moving. Now, let's kick it back, right, to the defensive secondary. You have 4 juniors, you have 1 redshirt senior, and they're all really good. And they all know how to communicate because they're old and they're experienced. And you have one that's a preseason All-American, another one, Trey Sterling, who had 8 tackles against Tulsa last week. He's a preseason All-Big 12. It's just pretty amazing at how good they are. And if you heard Coach Gundy speak last week, he praised that whole defensive secondary and the 2 linebackers as well, and how well that they played against Tulsa. And they really did, with a total of 278 yards given up. You can't beat that in 7 points, right? So, but what they do there, so now at the defensive front, they want to confuse you up front, right, with the offensive line and making it hard to the quarterback and the running back. Well, now let's look at the secondary, which they're going to show you something. And guess what? They're probably not going to be in that when you snap the ball. So what I saw a lot of last week against Tulsa was they were lining up in quarters, cover 4, which is the corner, 2 safeties, shell, and a corner. And each one has a quarter deep in the field. And all the other players have the underneath. And when you look at that, they start out at cover 4. But guess what they do? They want to play man because they think these safeties and they think these corners are just the jack of all jacks, right? I mean, they think that they're good. And guess what? They really are good. So they'll go into a cover 1 or man free. What does that mean? Well, you're going to have one of those safeties go out and be the center fielder and be free, and everybody else is playing man. And they did it, I'd say, probably 35 to 38 reps last game against Tulsa. They'll go cover 0. What is cover 0? Well, that means that it's not cover 1, so it's not man free, no safeties over the top. It means everybody's flat across. There is no pocket back there. It is, we're man, and we're going to bring 7. We're going to bring 7. Are you kidding me? Well, because that's usually because a running back stays in there in the scat protection. That is 6 man Look, scat protection, a 6-man blocking scheme where the running back stays in, and the linebacker that's covering that running back, he has what you call a green dog or a red dog. Red dog is that you cover that running back. If that running back stays in to block, you go ahead and you stay right in front of him, about 8 yards out, and you just watch him. But if you get a green dog and you see that running back staying in, you go in there, you make sure that that running back is not going over a pass, but then you rush the passer. So that makes it 7 defensive players rushing the passer, and Jared Deggy, the offensive line, and the wide receivers are going to have to be on the same page because they want to bring the heat and they want to disrupt and they want to bring pressure and they want turnovers. So when you look at all this, is we're going to throw the ball. Jared Deggy, wide receivers. Is it cover 4? Is it man coverage? Is it man free? Is it 0 man? Because what's the difference? Well, when you go zone, obviously the wide receivers, they have to find that hole within the zone, and the quarterback has to see them. So you have to understand, are we zone or are we man? And if you're man coverage, you got to play against man and beat that man. It's who wants it more. Does the DB want it more? The secondary, linebacker, who wants it more? Or do you as an offensive player want to beat that guy? And of course, Deggy, the quarterback, or whoever is that quarterback there, is going to have to understand which one it is, or that could be trouble. And that's why they're so difficult. You know what it is? With the front being what they are, with the defensive secondary what they are, it's a Chinese fire drill, man. And that, again, leads to big plays because of the breakdowns. But with that being said, obviously last week they did not have any major breakdowns, and they played pretty physical. So when you look, the special teams, the last thing I want to talk about is special teams. When I see this, I think Neil Brown is going to be a master of special teams. I'm saying it loud. I'm saying it now. I'm saying it early. He is going to win games just because the special teams are superior to other teams. Or maybe not superior, maybe they're just going to win that day, and they're going to win most days. That's what's going to happen, in my opinion. And I think that that's going to affect the overall performance of our Mountaineers this year and in the future. And even some games last year was greatly affected. So many people and coaches, they just put coach speak on special teams, and they say, yeah, let's go out and practice it. We'll do it. Yeah. Run through the motions. No, these guys are out there with Neil Brown, and guess what they're doing? They're good at it. They're coaching, man. They're running up saying, this is not acceptable if you do not perform well. It is not acceptable. And that's what I love. So now you got all the phases of the game, and you got your offense, your defense, and your special teams, and they're expecting you to perform and buy in. What that does for the special teams, those players see that energy from the coaches, that discipline from the coaches, that we have to win by special teams coming from the coaches, that gets them fired up. And that's why you put first teamers on special teams, and you just don't put second and third teamers in there all the time. Although you do have some. But to get those best players you have at the moment and get them on special teams, because they make a difference. Well, my friends, listen. So I'm releasing this Saturday morning, and we have a whole bunch of things going on. Okay, you can catch the Neil Brown television show and all your Next Star outlets at 9 a.m. And of course, you got the Wolf Stand in there as well. We break down some offensive schemes there of Oklahoma State. And then you have Mountaineer Game Day at 10, and that's on all your Next Star affiliates. Okay, and then you have onto AT&T, your next, or not Next Star affiliates, AT&T out there at 11. And then guess what? We go right into MSN Sports. Yeah, I remember that. MSN Sports from Learfield IMG College. And you have Dan Zangrilli, you got Jed Drenning, you got Coach Wallace, you got Tony Creve, and you got me, going out there, and we are going to break it down. I think the first half hour is free, according to Dan Zangrilli, our head chief and go guys. So we're going to go out there, half hour free commercial. Not going to be interrupted. We're going to talk Mountaineer sports, man, Mountaineer football and Oklahoma State Cowboy football. So go ahead and get ready. We're going to go 12 till kickoff. We're going to be we got you covered on a Saturday. On a Saturday, we got you covered for Mountaineer football. All I can say is this: let's go Mountaineers. Let's go out there and let's play like we're Mountaineers and go out there and pound the boats. Boom.